He's known for his eccentric ways, lavish lifestyle and controversy. The Shark Tank judge and BharatPe co-founder Ashneer Grover is once again back in news. The Ashneer Grover family allegedly generated fake invoices that had bank account numbers created for siphoning off money. This as per an Economic Offences Wing probe. According to a preliminary report, the family siphoned off funds from the fintech unicorn on the pretext of offering recruitment services and gave bank account numbers that were created after the dates when they were raised. The details are a part of the investigation into Ashneer Grover after BharatPe filed criminal complaints with the Economic Offences Wing on 17 counts including embezzlement, forgery and criminal breach of trust. All those allegations, of course, on Ashneer Grover, the man who is known, Kartik, for his eccentric ways, who's known for his freewheeling comments on Shark Tank. Those are serious allegations. He has once again denied them.
So, Shweta, I think we've got to look at the context of Ashneer Grover over the last 5 years or so. I think 2018 is when his journey in the public arena pretty much started. And within 5 years, look at the graph of the rise and fall of somebody who was once the poster boy of India's fintech ecosystem, the poster boy of India's startup revolution, a unicorn, and all those great achievements and that upswing that he had, which lasted, I think, all the way till the time he was on the jury of Shark Tank. And then the kind of decline that we've seen. And now I think the transition is complete, at least for immediate understanding as of now, that the poster boy of India's startup success has now become the poster boy of fraud. And I think it's a very, very serious allegation on Ashneer Grover, on the corporate governance that was at play in BharatPe. And of course, it's not just Ashneer Grover alone, but also his wife Madhuri Jain Grover and other family members all have been in cahoots in siphoning off large amounts of money from BharatPe for personal gains. Now, in a private conversation with Madhuri Jain yesterday, I asked her if she denies these claims, and Madhuri Jain has not denied it. I told her, in fact, that this could become a one-sided story if we don't take a comment from her, from Ashneer Grover. And she said, well, go ahead with a one-sided story, and I cannot deny. I mean, she did not say she can't deny, but she neither confirmed nor denied, and she said that go ahead with a one-sided story, if you may. And that is where we are today. So I think just to put this in context and just to bring all our viewers up to speed with what has really led to the rise and fall of Ashneer Grover, let's pull up that timeline, should we? 2018 is when it all started. March 2018 is when Ashneer Grover actually launched BharatPe. What was BharatPe? BharatPe was riding on this wave of fintech revolution, payments, etc., riding on this whole contactless payment surge starting, and it started all the way in March 2018. July is when Ashneer Grover brought in his wife Madhuri Jain Grover and appointed her on the board of BharatPe. So in any case, you could see that, did she have the expertise, skill sets to be on the board or not? We don't know. The jury's out there. December that year, 2018, Grover took over as the CEO. He was the co-founder of BharatPe. He took over as the CEO in December 2018. Now, August 2021, a good almost 2.5 years into the company as the CEO, Ashneer Grover gets elevated as the managing director of the company as well. And this is roughly where you see troubles beginning to kick in. Now, Ashneer Grover himself and Madhuri Jain had their first skirmish, first tussle with Kotak Mahindra Bank over Nykaa's IPO, and Grover had sent a legal notice to the bank. We'll come to that story also later. October 2021, about 2 years ago exactly from today, the GST department, the Directorate General of GST, conducts its first raid at BharatPe. Till then, nobody knew what was going on really and why those raids. Now, a month later, November 2021, Ashneer Grover's claim to fame, sort of becoming a public face, and that sort of rise, exponential rise, began when he was appointed on the jury of Shark Tank. Now, Shark Tank, being a general entertainment channel promoted large ticket show, gave him the kind of popularity that very few startup entrepreneurs had enjoyed at least thus far. That was season 1 of Shark Tank. Jan 2022, there were audio clips allegedly featuring Ashneer Grover and an employee of Kotak Mahindra Bank. And there were also an email spat which was uncovered with then investor Sequoia Capital, which is now called Peak 15 Ventures. In fact, before doing this show, our team had reached out to Sequoia Capital to be on the show, and they denied participation. Jan 2022, Grover is asked to go on or goes himself on voluntary leave. BharatPe announces an independent audit over corporate governance issues, including for the first time financial misgivings done by Ashneer Grover and his wife Madhuri Jain. Those were smaller ticket size frauds that came to light earlier, but then thereon you'll see Feb 2022. The preliminary investigation which was linking Madhuri Jain with financial fraud began to surface. Now, what were these allegations? Now, in Feb 2022, Grover in fact filed for an emergency appeal with the SIAC, but SIAC rejected Grover's plea, Grover's appeal, and continued with its investigation. Now, finally, in Feb 2022, Madhuri Jain was sacked. Remember, Ashneer Grover had already exited the company, went on voluntary leave, and Madhuri Jain was sacked in Feb 2022. December 2022, exactly last year, Grover released his autobiography, not strangely called Doglapan. That was the term that made him popular. Deceit, two-sidedness, double play, right? All of that sort of came to play after his Shark Tank, realized fame took him to colleges and public events where he would give speeches, etc. So Doglapan became sort of, his nemesis, so to speak. And that's the name of the autobiography he released. March 2022, Grover resigns from BharatPe and its board. BharatPe then alleges Grover's family had embezzled money. And now cut to December 2022, there is a lawsuit against Grover and Madhuri Jain. Look at the size of that fraud, 81.28 crore rupees. That was the allegation filed by BharatPe against Ashneer Grover, Madhuri Jain and their families. May this year, Delhi's Economic Offences Wing files an FIR against Grover and his family members for alleged fraud. So the story is progressing, and this is where you see the fall really beginning to crumble down. The Economic Parliamentary Investigation, preliminary investigation revealed that recruitment firms are linked with Ashneer Grover and his family, and they have raised backdated invoices. That brings us to present day today, Shweta. Where are we right now? Right now we are talking about a situation where as many as 8 companies have been identified, HR recruitment firms, staffing firms that opened bank accounts well after the date on which they submitted their invoice to BharatPe for payments to be made. Now, these transactions that have been made between BharatPe, their banks and these 8 companies have happened between 2018 and 2021 at a time when Ashneer Grover was co-founder, followed by CEO, followed by MD. And at a time when Madhuri Jain was already in the company and Madhuri Jain was also the head of controls at the company. So very, very clear indications coming. Now, the latest development which came to light with the EOW conducting its investigations and submitting its report to the Delhi High Court is suggesting that as many as perhaps 7.6 crore rupees worth of payments have been made to those 8 staffing firms. Out of those 8 staffing firms, 5 of them created their bank accounts only after invoices were raised to BharatPe. So technically there was no company, and if the company was there, the company did not have a bank account, which pretty much means there was no company, and these invoices, fake invoices were made. EOW has been able to also reconcile the fact that the addresses given on 5 out of these 8 bank accounts are the same address and are the address of one of the family members of Madhuri Jain. So this is where we are today. Yesterday I sent out an email.
These are basically fronts. These companies are fronts for
Absolutely.
embezzlement
These are
of
shell
money.
companies,
These are shell
is
companies.
what it seems.
Right.
There was an email I sent to Ashneer Grover yesterday morning. That email has not yet solicited a reply from him. And my private conversation over WhatsApp with Madhuri Jain, as I've mentioned already, in that conversation at least, she has not denied the setting up of these 8 companies by her family members, and she has not denied that whatever has been cited thus far, neither has she confirmed this.
Right. So, net, there is no development there as far as news lines reach out to both Ashneer Grover and his wife is concerned. Nruthya Madappa, partner 314 Capital, joining us on the show. Nruthya, this is in a sense confirmation of a lot of counts of forgery, embezzlement, charges that were levied by BharatPe board, the directors, on Ashneer Grover and his wife. How serious are these allegations? And they come at a time when the investigation has been on now for almost 6 months. In a sense, some of these allegations now seem to be moving towards some sort of fruition and conclusion.
The allegations remain serious and severe, but I wouldn't go so far as to say we have any sort of conclusive proof. In fact, drawing opinions on how this will land only rests with the courts who are following due process and the investigative wings. I personally have also not been able to review any of these reports to be able to sort of claim right here on TV my specific opinion on this. But the allegations are incredibly serious. They were very serious when they were made. We seem to have an investigation that is quite fast progressing, with both parties being able to sort of lay enough data and proof on the table across the board. And we're very closely watching this, as this means actually, what is interesting is that while this might seem like a governance failure, what we're seeing in the form of the investigation and the action that the board has taken, and the limited impact it's had on the growth and sort of straightening out of BharatPe's entire operations, one might actually say that that's actually governance in action, where we're having a board that was able to intervene at a time when shareholder and stakeholder value wasn't entirely eroded into the company due to a specific, alleged case of any form of like financial misgivings within the company. So that's my stance. We're really all very closely observing how this pans out, but I'm unable to comment on the veracity of any of this, as we've not been able to sort of study this ourselves.
Nruthya, my only question to you, hypothetically speaking at this point, is that assuming that all these allegations are true and assuming that BharatPe has been forthright and has in time been able to raise this allegation and get an investigation started, and that investigation has been underway. My limited question is that what was the rest of the board potentially doing at BharatPe at a time that these invoices were being signed and at a time that these payments were being made?
Every single invoice is rarely ever, brought up to the purview of the entire board. Usually, there are very clearly delineated board approval matters, and the chairman and MD and the sort of executive team of the company is typically charged with decision making across most of these other things. So, just again, hypothetically, just giving you an example of how that would work, if these payments out were over a period of time and were of a limited amount, they wouldn't fall within the purview of what the agreement with the board is. So it wouldn't become a board matter to be discussed, reviewed, and sort of executed at the board level. So I have no idea, of course, what happened on this board and why things went by. One of the things that I could hypothesize was some of these payments and these invoices didn't qualify to be brought up to the board for board decision making, and the decisions were made at the administrative level, which obviously had the full trust and were representing the board in their limited capacity. Of course, all of this, is reviewed in the form of audits and forensics that are done on a regular basis, especially in a fintech company. Fintechs in India are obviously held to a much higher standard of governance, given that they impact consumer, retailer money. And this is something that whether the regulator is SEBI or RBI takes extremely seriously. And given that in this particular sense, like with BharatPe's merger with a larger bank and its sort of broader ambitions to become sort of a more regulated entity within India, we would understand some of those controls were quite tight. So for us from the outside, and some of the things we're looking to see is how some of this actually slipped by, and how, if it truly the volume is 80 crores, how something like that could have passed the board's thing. But yeah, that's my...
Right. Nruthya, before I let you go, one of the concerns with startup founders and their tiffs with board members eventually, not just in BharatPe's case, and housing.com with Byju's. There have been issues related to corporate governance stemming in the last couple of years. What sort of advice would we have for perhaps a startup founder looking to build something without actually spoiling things over with the board and adhering to the corporate governance laws, at a time where maybe there's not much clarity? Maybe the startup founders who often brush up with external independent board directors know of no other better way to deal with things.
I doubt that, Shweta. You think these guys are so smart with such following, such excellent skills of convincing, communicating,
the repetitive
raising
way in
money,
which it's happening.
They won't know. I think they know only too well how to game the system. And sometimes not too well because they get caught red-handed.
I am not sure, Nruthya. What is there a lag in understanding, or is this deliberate? What do we do to not see these cases repeating?
I think it's both ways, right? Like, it's a matter of trust. It's a matter of sort of transparency with the board, and external board members need to earn that trust as well. While there's a contractual level of trust and obligation the company has, for a company, and in our experience, for a founder to come up to you when there is trouble unearthed within it, or they're going through something difficult. In all cases, it isn't a matter of intent to defraud. It sometimes is really just running afoul because you're building a rocket ship as it's sort of like soaring, right? That trust is sort of built from both ways. And when that exists, you really do see founders being a lot more transparent beyond just what is sort of contractually required of them to be, open with.
Right.
And similarly, we need much more robust board members. Like, we need folks who are trained on intervening and working with these. We have phenomenal board members and directors in governance across our public markets and public companies. We need to see some of our private companies also see that level, maybe not that level of onerous requirements on committees and sort of reporting, etc., but that level of engagement on governance early on itself. And it's a matter of relationship building across the board. But if either party believes the other one doesn't know what they're doing, which most founders believe investors are armchair sort of, critics, and investors believe sometimes founders are not listening to some of the strategic advice they give, there's breakdown. Like, it starts with the smallest of things, but bubbles up into a lack of transparency and beyond.
All right. I'm assuming there's no intent to cheat. I'm assuming that there is no intent to defraud, investors. I completely agree, Nruthya, that there is, of course, a lack of communication, which eventually bubbles out into a larger difference within the team and the board. Nruthya Madappa, thank you very much for joining in. Thank you for your words of wisdom. Always good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.